The bus rumbled forward, the evening air thick with the scent of city life, hot pavement, exhaust fumes, and the lingering traces of someone's cheap cologne. Mia Robinson sat near the window, fingers lightly tracing the silver band on her ring finger. The day had been long, her mind dulled by spreadsheets, meetings, and the predictable rhythm of a life she once dreamed of, but now found stifling. She exhaled slowly, resting her head against the cool glass, watching the world blur past. That's when she saw him. He sat across the aisle, one leg stretched lazily into the walkway, his dark jeans slightly torn at the knee. His hoodie was pulled up just enough to frame his face, sharp jawline, mischievous eyes that glinted under the dim bus lights. He wasn't looking at his phone. He was looking at her. Mia stiffened. The moment stretched between them, unspoken and deliberate. She forced herself to turn away, heart quickening against her will. Maybe she'd imagined it. Maybe he was just another stranger, staring at nothing in particular. Yet, when she dared a second glance, the corners of his lips lifted, a smirk barely hidden beneath an air of feigned innocence. Her stomach tightened. It had been years since anyone had looked at her that way. Not with the passive affection of routine, the kind her husband, Ethan, offered when he kissed her forehead in the morning before disappearing into his world of finance and late-night emails. No, this was different. Intentional. Dangerous. The bus jolted at a stop, sending Mia forward slightly. As she adjusted herself, the boy did the same, leaning forward just enough that their eyes met again. This time, he didn't look away. A game. That's what this was. But who had started it? Mia swallowed, fingers gripping the strap of her bag. She could feel the warmth creeping up her neck, the undeniable pull of something she shouldn't entertain. She wasn't that kind of woman. She loved her husband. She had a good life. And yet, the bus lurched forward again, and the boy shifted in his seat, stretching his arms behind his head as if he had all the time in the world. His movements were deliberate, designed to be seen. Mia's pulse drummed against her skin. He knew. He knew exactly what he was doing. The next stop approached, and she forced herself to break the connection, looking down at her lap. The ring on her finger glinted under the dull bus lights, a silent reminder of the vows she had taken. She should stand up, step off, go home to Ethan. Yet, something inside her, a part she had long ignored, held her still. The doors hissed open. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw the boy rise. For a brief second, she allowed herself to wonder. Was he leaving? Was that the end of this strange, silent exchange? Then, just as she placed her hand on her bag, she felt it. A presence. Close. Too close. Her breath caught as a voice, smooth and laced with quiet amusement, brushed against her ear. I see you looking. You like what you see. Mia's body tensed. Every instinct screamed at her to turn away, shut this down, leave now. But she didn't. She didn't move. She didn't breathe. And as the bus doors closed, sealing them in for a few more stops, she realized something even more dangerous. She didn't want to. The words lingered in the air, as sharp as a match strike in the dark. I see you looking. You like what you see. Mia's breath hitched. The boy, Jake, hadn't moved away. He stood just behind her, his voice carrying the kind of quiet confidence that sent a ripple through her chest. The bus lurched again, forcing the space between them to shrink, the heat of his body radiating against her back. Her fingers curled against the strap of her bag, her mind waging war with itself. This isn't happening. This shouldn't be happening. She turned her head slightly, just enough to see his reflection in the window. He was still watching her, still waiting. Excuse me? She said finally, forcing her voice into something firm, something indifferent. Jake chuckled. Low, quiet, not mocking but knowing. You heard me, he said. She should shut him down. Right here, right now. End this ridiculous game before it got any further. But instead, she made the mistake of looking at him. Really looking at him. His eyes held a challenge, dark and unreadable, but inviting. There was no hesitation in them, no doubt. He wasn't testing the waters. He was already waist-deep. Mia swallowed hard. She knew how this ended. She had seen it in movies, read it in books, the slow unraveling of self-control, the inevitable crash that followed. It never ended well. And yet, her lips parted before she could stop them. "You're awfully bold for a stranger," she murmured. Jake's smile widened. "Doesn't feel like we're strangers, though, does it?" The bus lurched again, and Mia forced her gaze away, staring at the scrolling list of stops overhead. 3 more until home. Home. Ethan. The reminder struck like a slap, cold and sudden. What was she doing? Entertaining this? Playing along like a bored schoolgirl desperate for attention? She was better than this, wasn't she? Her stop approached, the bus slowing. She gripped her bag, preparing to stand. She'd leave. She'd forget this ever happened. But then, just as the doors hissed open, Jake stepped in front of her, blocking her way. A deliberate move. A reckless one. "Have a drink with me," he said. Her heart stuttered. "Excuse me?" she repeated, this time a little sharper. "1 drink," he said. No pressure. No expectations. Just a drink. She should laugh. She should shove past him. She should say, "I'm married, you idiot." Instead, she hesitated. The bus driver glanced in the rearview mirror impatiently, waiting. The moment stretched, and Mia's pulse thumped like a warning drum against her ribs. Jake tilted his head slightly. Waiting. Watching. 1 drink. What harm could it do? Her mouth went dry. The doors began to close. If she didn't move now, if she didn't leave, Mia inhaled sharply and sat back down. Jake grinned, slow and victorious. The bus rolled forward, carrying them deeper into the night. The bar was quieter than Mia expected, warm, low-lit, the scent of aged wood and spilled whiskey woven into the air. She hesitated in the doorway, her pulse still unsteady from the decision that had brought her here. 1 drink. That was all. Jake walked beside her, his presence somehow more pronounced outside the bus, where there were no curious passengers, no walls of routine to separate them. He moved with a self-assured ease, weaving through the dimly lit space until he found a secluded booth. When he turned to face her, eyebrows raised in silent invitation, she forced her feet to follow. She slid into the seat across from him, resting her bag beside her as if the simple act grounded her, tethered her back to who she was supposed to be. "Whiskey?" he asked, his voice threaded with amusement. "Or are you more of a wine kind of woman?" Mia hesitated. At home, Ethan always poured her wine, dry red, always the same brand. She liked it, or at least, she had convinced herself she did. But tonight, something about the predictable taste of it felt suffocating. "Whiskey," she said, surprising herself. Jake's smirk deepened as he waved a bartender over. 2 whiskeys. Neat. Mia exhaled slowly, smoothing a hand down her thigh. "So," she started, keeping her tone light, distant. "Is this what you do? Invite strangers out for drinks on a whim?" Jake leaned back, stretching his arms along the booth's backrest. "Not usually," he admitted. "But you're not really a stranger, are you?" Mia frowned. "We've never met." "Not technically." He studied her, tilting his head slightly. "But I know you." A slow, quiet unease curled in her stomach. "How do you figure that?" Jake didn't answer immediately. Instead, he waited as the bartender set their drinks down, sliding hers toward her with deliberate slowness. Only when they were alone again did he lean forward, his elbows on the table, his eyes sharp beneath the dim glow of the hanging light. "I see you every day," he said, his voice lower now. "Same bus. Same seat. Same tired look in your eyes." Mia's fingers tightened around her glass. Jake traced the rim of his drink absently. "And then there's the ring," he continued. "You touch it when you think no one's watching." She stiffened. "You twist it," he murmured, eyes flicking to her hand. "Like you're not sure if it belongs there anymore." Heat flushed up her neck, a mixture of anger and something else, something she refused to name. "That's quite the assumption," she said, voice clipped. "Maybe." He took a slow sip of whiskey, his gaze never leaving hers. "But I'm usually right." Mia exhaled sharply, pushing her glass aside, untouched. This was a mistake. Jake didn't look surprised. If anything, he looked expectant. Maybe, he echoed. But you're still here. She opened her mouth, to argue, to deny, to say something that would make this moment less real, but nothing came. Because he was right. She was still here. Jake let the silence settle, watching her, waiting. Then, as if deciding something, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded napkin. He slid it across the table. Mia hesitated before picking it up. Scrawled in bold, slanted writing was an address. "What is this?" she asked. "A choice." Jake finished his drink, then stood, rolling his shoulders as if the night was nothing but a casual game. "You don't owe me anything, Mia." Her name slid off his tongue like he'd said it 100 times before. "You can go home. Pretend this never happened." He held her gaze for a lingering beat. "Or," he continued, quieter now, "you can see what happens when you stop twisting that ring and start listening to yourself." Mia's pulse roared in her ears. Jake pulled on his jacket, glanced at her drink, still untouched, then smirked. "Maybe next time, you'll actually take a sip." And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving her alone, leaving her with a decision. The napkin felt impossibly heavy in her palm. She didn't move. She didn't breathe. And she had no idea what she would do next.